Do you want to add electrical accessories to your bike, but don't want to spend hundreds of dollars on a CAN bus relay kit and don't want to cut into your factory harness? Well, I have a few ideas here and a pretty good solution that will give you a master control over all your accessories and allow you to power them up individually. So let's get to that. Hey, how's it going? Welcome to my channel. As I mentioned in the intro, I am going to be adding accessories to this bike. I don't want to cut into the wiring harness on it, and I don't know if there are accessory outlets on this. And I actually wanted to have a separate power network for all of my accessories that had nothing to do with the wiring harness of the bike. So basically just wiring it right off the battery. But I want to have control over all of these devices from a master switch. Now, that's pretty easy to do if you do a single switch. I found a relay that has 4 outputs, and it's rated at up to 30 amps with the fusing that's in it. It has 5 amp fuses in each of the 4 outputs, but this can function basically as a master switch. Now, the other thing that I'm going to do is I'm not going to try to run it off of any of the switches on the bike to be off the ignition. I have a waterproof backlit switch that I'm going to install. And the reason for this is I want to have everything separate from the main harness. And if I want to get into my GPS or whatever unit I'm using for navigation without turning on the bike, I just flip this on. And basically, this will just be part of my startup function when I start the bike and turn the bike off. I flip the switch on, I flip it off. And it's just part of the routine that I'll have to get used to with this bike. But this allows me to keep everything separate. All of my accessories will not be triggered off of the bike. So I'll have complete autonomous control over everything. To include heated grips. I like having heated grips on a switch, even though I know the Oxford heated grips monitor the battery level and will turn off once it gets below a certain voltage. Well, that's not a great idea if you're using a lithium battery, because lithium batteries hold the voltage really, really high until it's out of energy, and then bam, will drop. So I'm not going to depend on that. I'm going to have a master switch. I will go through each of these individual pieces as I wire it up, if this is something that interests you. If you need a wiring diagram, let me know. I'll draft something up and put it in a PDF and I can send it to you. So to let you know all the things that I'm adding, I have another one of the Google CarPlay, Apple CarPlay, Google Auto connection. So it goes to your phone. I'm going to be wiring this in. The heated grips, of course, I have grown to really love heated grips basically all year long. Mornings can be cool, nights can be cool, rain can be really cold. So I'm going to do that. And then I am going to power all of my electronics off this USB port that I'm going to hook somewhere close to put into the tank bag so that I'm not running it off of the one that comes off of the bike itself. And then I will actually have one more port left if I ever put auxiliary lights on, that I can switch that off of this relay. So I'll go into each of these individual pieces to explain it a little bit more and demonstrate why I am doing this and how it's going to work. So the wiring is going to take a little bit of time. I probably won't show all that, but just give you an idea of how there are alternative ways, especially if you don't want to spend hundreds of dollars for the CAN bus relay adapters that you can put on bikes. It's really expensive, and yeah, great, they switch off of the ignition, but this was $20. The switch was like $12. So $30, $40 for everything being switched, and just having to learn a new routine is, to me, more cost effective. So let's get started on this. All right, what I have here is a small, essentially 12-volt relay box. And it has 4 outputs. The entire relay box is rated, or the relay itself is rated up to 30 amps. I'm only going to run 5 amps off of each of these with the fusing that's inside. So I'm going to pop this lid off and show you what the inside looks like. So you have individually fused outlets at whatever you would need it to be. And right now it's already right now the fuses that came in it are 5-amp fuses. I'm going to leave that. But the value of this is essentially a master switch for all of your electronics. So when you get somewhere, if your heated grips are on and your navigation unit is on, and maybe you've got other accessories, when you flip the master switch, everything gets turned off. When it comes back on, then you can turn things on individually, depending on how you want to power it up. But to me, this is a really great solution on being able to have autonomous control and not worrying about using the bike switch. So this is what I found. Everything that I use today, I'll put links in the description below if this is something that interests you. I find bike wiring can be a little confusing for people, and then also trying to get everything to fit in a very compact space. I like this configuration here and the ability to, with the lid on, be able to change what comes in. So I'm going to get this wired up to begin with and basically test the relay to make sure that I'm getting power to each of the outputs here. And it looks like both positive and negative gets wired in, so you don't have to go to the battery. You just hook this into the battery, and then all of your other leads, your power, that any accessory just gets completely wired into here. So you have one single hub. So I'm going to get this installed and then we'll go from there. All right, I just quickly wired this in, just the power and the negative. And this has basically an accessory switch that I'm going to use off of my bar switch. So just to give you an idea, it is, there's with it powered up, so I can actually see which of the lights that I have on, and then it's off. And then we got that. So I'm going to go ahead and get the switch wired in so that I can activate it off of the switch. One of the problems with this particular switch is the lead on this is about a quarter of what it needs to be. So unfortunately, I've had to splice another wire in here. And I would recommend, if you have to do any splicing, use heat shrink, the marine grade heat shrink, because it'll waterproof this whole connection here. And then that way, wherever I tuck it in, I'm not as concerned about trying to keep it from getting wet. Yeah, something I had to do. Here's a relay box all wired in. I've got this little trigger here, which is for the navigation unit, which I'll show in a second. And then I've got this, which is power for my tank bag. And I don't want to use the USB port that comes off. It seems like it doesn't have enough load capacity for keeping my phone charged and then also charging other devices. So I'm going to run separate power into my tank bag. And then this is for the heated grips. So I've got this separate thing here. Now I will also show, so off of here, when I flip my switch, you can hear all the relays pick up, and then at the same time, my GPS unit, navigation unit comes on. And then if I want to run my heated grips, I can do that, and I've got power in the tank bag. So what I need to do is just get this all cleaned up and tucked away. All right, I've got my switch here, which will control the relay box. And then up here is the navigation unit. So this is backlit. So when I flip this on, it's lit. So I have some sort of visual representation that everything is powered up. But I also can see the navigation unit, which is obviously also an indication that everything is powered up. So if the bike is shut off, I'll know that I've left something on, and I can just flip the switch. And once I flip the switch, everything is off. It'll reset the heated grips. And even if this is off, the clock still shows. So there's visual representation that all this is on. Here's the final wiring configuration underneath the bike, underneath the seat. I've got the relay tucked in here. This is a lithium battery, so there's extra space in the battery area. So my relay's tucked in here with the wires coming out of it here, and not overly tight to make sure we're not putting any stress on any of these connectors. And yeah, so it's pretty clean. It's all tucked away, and we have master control over all the electronics without tying into the bike's wiring, so we keep everything separate. There you go. There is a way to wire in accessories on your bike without tapping into the wiring harness, keeping everything external. I really wished I had done this on all my other bikes without cutting into those, especially the Tenere. I got in and cut a bunch of accessory connectors in order to wire it in. One of the things that I ran into with this GPS unit, with one of these CarPlay units, is that every once in a while it drops its connection to my phone. And if everything's wired into the switch, then I have to turn the bike off and turn it back on in order to reset it. Where having a master switch up on the handlebars allows me to flip it on and off and reset that device. And then if I don't want to run it, I can just turn it off. I don't have to have it on. And then also knowing that I've got the proper controls that I want over my heated grips and not just relying on the low voltage, shutting it off. I know I have that control. And as far as like getting into the habit of turning it on and off, because it's on the switch gear, it's up on the handlebars when I start the bike and stop the bike. Everything is right there. I know I've got this routine of turning it on and off when I'm traveling. Now, I've done about 3,000 miles with this wiring setup. I didn't have any problems forgetting and leaving it on because the GPS, the CarPlay unit was still on, so I would know when I would come to a stop if it was still on, just flip it off. Not a big deal. Or if I wanted to leave it on because I'm trying to do some navigation things, I can shut the bike completely off, do some navigation things, and have it ready to go. So I think for me, the way I like to do things, this has actually worked really well for me, especially not having to cut into the factory harness. All of my accessories are absolutely separate from the rest of the wiring on this bike, which I really, really like. I will likely end up doing that on my other bikes to get that separation so that factory wiring harness, everything that's on there is left alone, and I have a separate wiring network. So if I want to add other accessories, I can just go to that little relay box. Now, I will leave links to the switch and the relay box in the description below if it's something you want to do. I think it's a really easy way to wire things up and go from there. Anyway, I really hope this was useful to you, especially if you're wanting to add accessories to your bike. I know for me, it really worked out well doing the traveling that I was doing. So anyway, thanks for watching. Get out, do some riding, ride safe, and I will see you out there.